Okay, so now let's look and work on some of the processes of going from fractions to decimals, and then I'm even going to throw in their percentages, okay? But let's start first with going from fractions to decimal, okay? So when you look at this, to go from a fraction to a decimal, we kind of already talked about this. You want to divide the numerator. Actually, hold on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that I can write that clear. Okay, so to do this, you want to divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay, and then I'm going to put, in other words, you want to divide the top by the bottom. Okay, you want to divide the top by the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to give you an easy one to start with and think about. All right, y'all ready? 1 divided by 4. Okay. You can take your calculator and do this. You can do it by hand, whatever you want to. Okay. But it's going to end up being 4 divided by 1. Okay. Now, I'm just going to use your calculator. That's what a lot of us are going to do, right? But you just got to make sure when you type it in your calculator, it should look like this. 1 divided by 4. Or you could just type it in exactly as I wrote it the first time. But this is how it should look in your calculator. All right? And as y'all work those out, if you did that, you would end up getting out 0.25. Okay? So, that is how you go from a fraction to a decimal. All right? Everybody good with that? Let's come over here and look at the next one. Okay, now the next one is decimal to a fraction. So we just talked about this. It says say the number out loud or use a place value. Okay, so we're going to actually do the same thing that we just did, right? I'm going to start with 0.25. Okay, so I gave you a summary in the last video on the first page where you always want to look and see how many decimal places there are. And you're going to divide that number, so just the number, by a 1 and how many decimal places there are. So for example here, what is the number that you see? Yeah, the number is 25. So you know you're going to use 25 divided by, now, here's the fun part. How many decimal places are there? 2, because there's a 2 and a 5. So we divide it by, there's got to be a 1 with it, and then 2 zeros, so you divide it by 100. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay? Now, here's the part that you've got to get used to. All right? And I'm going to be honest, I make you do this, and on the test, I'm going to make you do this as well. Now I want you to give me your final answer, but I want it as a fraction. Crazy, right? Want it as a fraction. So, you have to look and figure out how to reduce fractions. So when you look at this, you have to decide what number goes into 25 and 100. 5. Yeah, 5 absolutely goes into 25 and 100. So here's what you're essentially doing, is you are taking each of these and you are dividing them by 5. So 25 divided by 5 is 5. So that's your new numerator. And then 100 divided by 5 is 20. That is your new denominator. Now, here's what happens sometimes, and I did this on purpose. You are not done reducing. Does 5 go into 5 and 20? Yeah, it does. So guess what you got to do again? Divide both of them by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 20 divided by 5 is 4. That's your answer, 1/4. Okay, now, look at this. And I want you to see this for a reason. Notice, we started over here with 1/4. We divided it to get a decimal. Then we took that same decimal and we made it back into a fraction. So you see how it comes full circle? It'll always work. Now, could you have skipped straight from 25 divided by 100 to 1/4? You could have. Because some of you might have noticed, hey, 25 goes into both 25 and 100. It all depends on how comfortable you are with reducing. But if you look at it and you have no idea what can reduce or what goes into it, what I'm going to tell you is to make sure that you just use your calculator and try and find a number that'll go into both of them. It's okay to do it more than once. You just want to get it down to as low as you can. Okay? All right. So that's fractions to decimals and all that jazz. Now let's come back up here and look about percentages. Okay? So when you think about a percent, if you start up here at the top, it says percent means what? Well, what is a percent? It's a portion. Okay? So what I mean by a portion, let's start with the easiest percent. If you give 100%, what are you giving? Oh, you're giving everything. If I gave y'all 100% of my water bottle, I would give you all the water in my bottle. Okay? If I give you 0%, I would give you zero, nothing, right? If I gave you 50%, I'd give you half. So you're giving a portion. Percents are just portions. Okay? All right, now, when you have a percent to a fraction, you put the percent over 100 and reduce. So, give me, do y'all want to do 25%? We'll just keep it, or do y'all want to use a different number? If I use 25 for everything, does that confuse you? No? Okay, so if we start with 25%, if we are trying to make 25% into a fraction, all you do is you take whatever the percentage is and you put it over 100. That happens every single time. Percents, always for percents. Every single time. For percent, up here, whenever you're using a percentage to make it into a fraction, it's always divided by 100. So, at this point, you got 25 divided by 100. All right? Guess what you've got to do? It says it right there. The next part is to reduce. Well, hey, guess what? Have we already reduced this one? Yeah, we reduced it down here on the bottom, right? So, we could follow the exact same steps, but I'm going to show you what we could have done. Since we know 25 goes into both of them, we could have divided the top and the bottom by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So it still reduces to 1/4. Y'all good? Okay. You sure? All right. Now, if you wanted to go the other way, if you wanted to go from a fraction to a percent, we will set it up as a proportion. Okay, now, does anybody know what a proportion is? Yeah, so a proportion is a little different than a portion, okay, because a portion is part of something. Here's what a proportion looks like. Give me a fraction. Doesn't matter. Any fraction you want. Give me your favorite number, Jennifer.
5.
Huh? 5? Perfect. 5. Xylin, give me your favorite number. 4? Okay. No, give me a different number. Give me a number bigger than 5. That's your favorite number. Huh? 8. Okay. So we have this fraction as 5 over 8. To make a proportion, all right, here's what you have to do. You set it equal to another fraction. A proportion is essentially two fractions equal to each other. But here's the deal. With a proportion, usually something is missing. So we are trying to make this fraction into a percentage, right? Well, we know if we had a percentage as a fraction, it would have to be over what? 100. So when you set up proportions to make percentages, it's always going to be the fraction equals blank, which here we will call x, over 100. Okay? That's the hardest part. The hardest part is remembering, hey, if I wanted to make a fraction to a percent, I've got to use a proportion. The proportion will always be x over 100. Now, does anybody remember how to solve this? Yeah, it's cross product. Y'all have probably heard butterfly before. I don't like the term butterfly, but we'll let it slide. Okay, it's called cross product. So what that means is you take the things that are across from each other and you multiply them together. So that means over here you would get 8x is equal to 5 times 100. Or 500. Yeah, I'm just trying to show it step by step. So you get 8x equals 500. Then, to solve this, how do you undo it? To undo multiplying by 8, you have to divide by 8. And you end up getting x is equal to anybody?
Oh, 62.
62.5? Yeah, so you end up getting x is equal to 62.5%. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think I would take off points if you didn't put percent? Yeah, there's a chance. Okay. All right, so just know that. Okay. All right, percents aren't what we major in. The big thing is making it go to a fraction. This is just something to look at as we go forward. Okay. All right, now let's go from a decimal to a percent. This one's super easy. To go from a decimal to a percent, you just need to multiply by 100. So, give me your favorite double-digit percentage, or give me your favorite number, Jacqueline.
6.
6. Okay, so if we had 0.6 to make it into a percentage, we would just take 0.6